And a 3, 2, 1. It says it's setting up right now, but honestly, it's probably recording. But I have to be double sure and wait for it to say it's good. All right, now it's good. All right, I'm Bobby Steagall. Welcome to the Blue Falcon Podcast. Today, I believe it's June 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. June 21st, getting ahead of myself. And it's a pretty awesome guest I have on today. I've been looking forward to this for about a week. Mr. Mark Strickland, CEO of Building Security Associates, and also a EOD veteran, as well as decades of service to this country. Mr. Strickland, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you, Bobby. Appreciate you having me here. I've been looking forward to doing this. We're really excited to be here and to do this with you. So thank you for the invite.
Well, it's my honor. We had an awesome conversation last week.
Yes. It's refreshing to talk to a former EOD guy. It's always nice.
It's something I wish I could describe to somebody, but it's like one of those, well, that's a big gust of wind. Hold on. Let me make sure I'm not getting blown away here. I swear, I'll move away from Oklahoma to get away from the wind.
It follows you, dude.
There we go. Your Facebook page had me intrigued, and that's why I wanted to set up an appointment with you. And so first off, I got to say, as an older business owner, kudos to you for knowing how to set up some of this, I'd consider it advanced social media apps. And, I was able to go in there, look at your schedule and schedule off an hour of your time on your website, and, got the email, said, hey, this is going to be the time. Here's the Zoom link. And kudos to you for having that capability and knowing that's important. And that's kind of how this all this started. So I guess I want to pause there and ask you, as a veteran and as a business owner in 2021, why did you find that important, and what did you hope to gain from
that? Why did I find it important? We'll take it into chunks. Social media has become the public square. And if you're not in the public square now in 2021, social media, nobody's going to hear you. We've been in business as a company for, we started in January 2017 is when we started business. And what you're seeing now is a byproduct. What I've learned since 2017 is that if I'm not on social media and I'm not out there and I'm not engaging, people aren't going to find me. Just because, I throw a website up there, they're not inherently going to go look for what we do. Like I said, we're a security consultancy, and we started out doing government business stuff, but now we've branched out into what we're now calling Homestead security as a result of how we built our house. And we started out consulting back to our board. Oh, I got a thing. Let me continue. I got a thing up saying I'm being recorded. But we started out consulting back to our builder. And so we started getting some traction, but I realized that if we didn't get in the social media square, people aren't going to find us. So then I just had to educate myself and learn about Facebook. I'm setting up Instagram now, getting that put out. I understand the importance of going out and doing daily little snippet updates on Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social media platforms. And since I've been doing that, I'm seeing benefit in doing that. People aren't just going to find me because, hey, I'm Mark and I'm a really nice guy. I'm a really great guy to work with. I'm one of the best. That just doesn't work. If you're not in the social media realm and that sphere, yeah. Oddly enough, a really quick, interesting story. I kind of stumbled into the social media doing this. We started off doing home and garden shows. Home and garden shows for us, galactic waste of time and money. I went to another one called Prepper Camp. I was just going to go down there as a vendor, set up a booth space, and say, okay, here we are. That is my target market, and they're not afraid of calling themselves preppers at these events. And so, literally it was less than a week. We were in the process of packing the vehicle, getting ready to head out for the show. It was less than a week before we got there, and I get a call from the organizer that puts the show, guy named Rick Austin. And Rick called and said, hey, dude, one of our presenters went down. He's sick. And he was teaching them. And I'm looking at it's on security. Can you teach this? So he sent me, I looked at the outline. It's like, yeah, I really would have done some different topics, but yeah, this is like garden variety. Any security guy worth his salt, yeah, I'll teach a class. And so we got into, we literally fell into it by accident. And that's when I realized the value of getting out and teaching at events, and then the social media, putting those two together. And then that's been a huge benefit for us of doing that, really. And that getting out in that public interaction, that's something we talked about last week, is like, I've been tested so many times through that Myers-Briggs thing. I am a hardcore introvert. I have to force myself
See,
to
I
get
don't know
out.
if I still don't know if I believe that, Mark. I still
Oh
don't
yeah,
know if I believe that.
I am the introvert of the introvert. Like I said, I live on a rural homestead in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. We are geographically isolated. My wife and I, we're both hardcore introverts. We chose geographic isolation because I mean, we have literally been up here for anywhere from 7 to 10 days and realized we have never left the property. And it's like, oh, maybe we should go to town and interact with other people. We've been up here for 10 days. We ain't seen a soul.
Maybe we should make sure that society is still happening.
Yeah. Literally,
Let's go.
my next door neighbor is a horse and a donkey. That's
a good setup for a joke.
That is my physical next door neighbor is a horse and a donkey. They're other than that, it's pastures and hay fields. I had to go miles down the road to get to the next house where the next homestead farm is.
Well, I know there's a jackass in my neighborhood, but that's the point.
Well, if you ask my wife, I'm the jackass here. So.
Yeah. I didn't want to call myself out, but I was the jackass I was talking to. So good to have that in common with you too.
Yes. Yeah, but we've been married for 27 years, so
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And you have also a beautiful daughter, a very smart daughter, and she's married into military too, which is great.
Yeah. Amber, the youngest one, she went to college very close to where we moved, to Appalachian State. And her first year in college, she met this local boy that she waited until the end of the semester. And she said that she came home and she said, well, yeah, I'm really kind of seeing this guy. That they really fun. I can tell you this. They said, yeah, their first date, they did it during at the end of spring semester. Their first date, they went. He took, because of what he does. I can't use his name.
Right.
He's an SF guy. He took her trout fishing because when she was growing up in high school, we took her fishing, and I had her shooting guns and all kind of cool guy stuff. And so that was their first date. They did it during finals week. That was how they decompressed, and they went trout fishing.
That's great. I mean, that's a great decompression.
And then they've been fishing together all through college. They would go fishing, and for them, they're highly competitive, and it was fishing and doing, working out, running and stuff. And that's what they did. And cool, you can appreciate this. All the military dudes out there can appreciate this. They graduated on a Friday. Saturday morning, this dude was on a bus heading to Fort Benning for basic and jump school. And then, he did his basic and jump school. Then he went into the pipeline as SF, and then he went back to Bragg, went in through selection, got through that, SEER, then came out of the Q course, did his language, and now he's living the dream, at one of the groups on an ODA and living the life.
Yeah, just the amount of respect a Green Beret carries on a military base is very impressive.
Yeah, I had to tell you, one thing. He does call me all the time. We talk because he knows what I did for my time in the military. Then I spent after I got out, spent 6 years as a contractor doing security stuff for diplomatic security. It was in Africa and the Middle East. 6 years of going out there, so it's the miles just wear on you. It makes it just hard on the body, and so all through college, I was working with we'd go out shooting and took him to some classes, and he just loved. He took to that stuff like a duck to water. So he knew he wanted to do something. I said, man, basically, your options are, me. Okay, I was a Navy guy. I would do the SEAL thing. But your options are basically SEALs, SF, MARSOC, or now the Raiders, or you could go Air Force and do one of those, and
Pararescue or
pararescue or combat controller dudes.
yeah,
And
which we talked about. Those two are to me, the hidden jewels of
they
the
are.
SOC community.
Yeah, for me, like I said, when I was in dive school, we had some combat controllers. When I'm old enough that when I went through it, I actually went through second class divers. Now they actually have an EOD diver pipeline. When I went through, we went to second class diver school, so we did surface applied and all that kind of stuff, and then from there, I was actually the last class to go through Redstone Arsenal. That Tommy Dubb was the master chief there running it. And when we went through, our class went through, they actually closed down the Navy portion, and then when we went there, we went to Indian Head and did cord, ground, air, IEDs,
dispensers,
and underwater weapon. I mean, we had like I said, that was the last class that they closed down the old pipeline after we went through. And then everything went to Indian Head and Eglin, and then finally everything moved down to Eglin. So I was telling this dude that, hey, if you're going to do something, I would do Navy, but he decided, and like I said, he knew what I did. And, so I basically, you're living the life that I went through. It's not, as you can tell, it's not an easy life, especially if you're married.
It's cool in the cool moments, but it in honesty, it is a pretty what would you call that? Emotionally draining lifestyle. It's emotionally demanding. Maybe draining is not the right word. Emotionally demanding.
It's mostly demanding, and it is hard on the family life, especially the deployments, whether it's training or operational. Yeah, I know for me, a lot of times when I was active duty, you get a phone call. I don't know about for your Army. For us, Navy, the way it always went, 4:00 on a Friday, we get a phone call. Somebody found something.
When you're on call, yeah, that's what.
That's when the calls. I mean, I'll tell you one. God, this was 86. I was down in Charleston. I was at the area response deck, and we get a phone call up to go. So somebody found something on the beach up Myrtle Beach, and so me being
got back from there?
Well, here again, we were just hanging around the deck. We were just doing maintenance and just doing our normal daily routine stuff. I had on boots, pair of UDTs, and a sweat and a t-shirt. And they said, "Hey, we got a call." So I just grabbed my blouse, my hat, and sunglasses, and we roll out. So I still got my UDT. I didn't even pair my pants. I had UDTs, a blouse, and a hat and boots. 3 days later, we make it back. I mean, it turned out it was actually a Mark 55 mine, washed up on the beach. We thought usually it's a hot water heater or something. It was actually a real sea mine.
A real hot water heater.
Yeah. And so we go to the local municipality. They give us a 5-ton truck. They get a crane out there. We get it loaded, get it strapped down. We had to truck it inland to Columbia, to the Army base. And that was the closest range that could handle the demo weight of this mine. It's like I said, so for 3 days, we're out there. I mean, none of us had anything. And so we're going to the grocery stores or, the dollar store, whatever we could find open, and buying clothes, toothbrushes, toothpaste. And
where's the nearest Walgreens, right?
Yeah. But that's just how it got. That was the life,
Yeah. I wanted to hit on that aspect of your background playing a role into what you do today. So I believe you could have retired, if I'm not mistaken, when you got out.
Oh, I couldn't. I got injured in '91. I was in training and blew a disc. They sent me back to. I was actually in San Diego. I was in Coronado. I was in the SEAL pipeline, and I fell off one of the obstacles and landed on my ass and blew the disc. And so they said, "Yeah, you're done here. You got to have surgery." And so they shipped me back to the East Coast, back to Bethesda, for the back surgery in '91, and then from '91 to '94, I was stationed at the Tech Center in Indian Head for the recovery. And finally in '94, I was still begging out of the doctors. It never healed right. They said, "Yeah, you're done." They medically retired me at 12 years and said, "Okay, here's your retirement. Go have a happy life. This not in the Navy anymore." Right. And then that was in '94, and then '98, the Nairobi bombing occurred. And that's when I got a phone call from a dude I served with. And next thing I know, I'm on an airplane flying to Saudi, and I spent the next 6 years,
that is insane.
Bouncing
just
around
from a
the
phone
world.
call.
Yeah. Yeah, the phone call, man, that's the way it is. The phone rings, next thing you know. Which I can tell you one story. The phone ring. Well, I got a phone call from a dude, and how I ended up in Beirut one
Oh,
job. So it's like, phone calls. Man.
I'm listening.
This is a good story.
Okay.
I get a phone call from they call the regional safety officers, regional security. They're the security guys, the special agents at all embassies. They're the department. They're the diplomatic security guy that runs the security and the guards, and they got the guns and do the protection. I was sitting in the office. I get a phone call from the guys in Beirut. Said, "Hey man, we got some stuff going. We need you in here." I was like, "Okay, yeah, I got to go to Jeddah first. I'm going to be in Jeddah, so I'll just, I'll jump a flight." And at that time, they were running what they called the BAB, with the Beirut Air Brigade out of Nicosia. It was a squadron of Black Hawks. That if you had to go into Beirut, you'd fly into Nicosia, jump a Black Hawk, and they chop you, and they shuttle you an hour across the Med and land on the old bombed out Marine barracks. That was with the helipad, and so it'd land you. And that's how you'd get into Beirut. Well, at that time, there's an executive order.
Blown out you're going to a place that was blown up because that's going to be safe, right? That's why they're like,
it's always a good sign.
Yeah. Hey, all that stuff where it was at, and it's not there anymore.
It's bad.
That's where we want to go. That's where
and that's why it always. Yeah, they never needed us in Paris or Brussels or London. It was always in some third world crap hole. And so they called me and said, "Hey, yeah, get into Nicosia and we'll get you a chopper and we'll fly you in." And so I call up the travel agent and said, "Hey, this is where I'm coming. We'll be in Jeddah on this date. I got to go to Beirut. Can you get me to Nicosia?" And so she heard her. She said, "Yes." This was in the middle of Hajj.
Okay.
And everything going to Nicosia was booked. No flights from where I was at. Nothing available. But she said, "Hey, I can get you on a Beirut International Air flight from Kuwait directly into Beirut. I can do that." It was like I said, there was an executive order that Americans could not fly Beirut International Air because they shot that Navy diver back in the early 80s. He threw his body on the tarmac.
Yep.
And so I was like, "Yeah, okay, you're right. Thanks for trying." So I get on the stew, call up the RSO, say, "Yeah, dude, ain't happening, man. No flights." And as a joke, I said, "Yeah, but I could fly into Beirut International." Larry, he said, "I'll call you back." He hung up the phone. It's like, "Wait a minute, dude, I'm kidding. It's a joke. I can't fly." Sure as crap. 5 minutes later, he calls me up, talk to the ambassador, book the flight. Son of a bitch. Like, okay.
You're going to be on national television now.
I'm the only white dude on this plane.
Oh, great.
So we land. So I get on. So sure enough, I'll leave Jeddah, go to Kuwait, get on the connecting flight, Beirut International Air. I am the only Westerner on this plane. We land. So usually in international flights, they do it in multiple languages.
Right.
The announcements were all in Arabic. There were nothing in English on this flight because they knew everybody.
I hope they weren't talking about you. What if they were like, "Hey, look at this mother." In the middle row, act like we don't notice him.
Yeah, I stick out like a sore thumb. And so we land, we taxi up, and the pilot gets on the plane in Arabic, telling people what to do, and everybody stands up and they start doing things. And then the door opens, and then here these 6 big Lebanese dudes come walking on the plane carrying carbines.
I'm guessing they were there for you.
Yeah. And so they go in, they talk to the pilot. The pilot gets back on the mic, back in Arabic again. Everybody sits down. And then he comes over in broken English. "Would Mr. Strickland please identify yourself?" It's like, "Yeah, here I am." They grab me off the plane. The expediter grabs my boarding pass as they're shoving me into the armored up Suburbans. Here we go, full up motorcade, 3 vehicles, they light up, lights and sirens. We're leaving the airport. Expediter goes in and claims my bags about 3 or 4 hours later. I make it back to the embassy. Then my bags finally show up a couple hours later. And then oddly enough, they send me home the same way. This time, except they take me back to the airport, put me in the departure lounge, say, "Yeah, you'll be fine." They leave me there in the airport by myself.
So picking you up is a big deal. Dropping you off is like some kind of like,
you're good.
Your ex-wife, dropping your kids off to the ex-wife. Just get out of the car, drive by. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was the first trip in. I ended up going there several times, and it was always an adventure getting in. And oddly enough, every time I went in, I never took the BAB. I always ended up either flying directly into Beirut or driving down through the Bekaa Valley
Hmm.
into the embassy.
Okay, well, I got a good segue, I think, for that
Right.
story. So adaptability to whatever client you're in, whatever climate you're in, whether you're in a business climate and trying to adapt to new things, such as we talked about earlier with the social media,
Right.
or when it comes to homestead security, which I'm segueing in your business here. When it comes to homestead security, I believe redundancy is one of the most important things you talked about. And I would imagine, along with redundancy, is obviously the ability to adapt to new situations. And also, as we discussed earlier, growing up on a farm or working on a farm, the way that you have today planned is not how it's going to happen. But you
Yeah.
better have a plan or it'll be a lot worse.
Yeah, it is. To give you an idea, I was going to go do some work for one of the neighbors. And I ended up running a stick through the hole in the radiator on my backhoe. So it's down it turned out to be down for 2 weeks, because once I got that fixed, the computer on it died, had to get it fixed. So having to back up machine and backup ways to get things done. But here, yeah, I was just going to kill a couple hours before I went down and did the work for the neighbors. I had no idea I was going to run a stick through, poke a hole in the radiator, and it takes 2 days to get the radiator fixed. Then the computer dies. And so now I'm waiting on parts to come in. And yeah, so having alternate ways and backups for everything. Like I said, we talk about for laundry. Okay, I have a backup plan if I got to wash my laundry. How I'm going to do that? How, in an old school way, which is basically a 5-gallon bucket with a bathroom plunger, and that's our backup plan in case if we have to do laundry. If everything else goes, I still have a way to do to get the clothes clean, and then your piece of rope between trees and posts, and for drying, going back to the old ways of doing things.
How would you iron clothes? Would you have to go to? How would you iron clothes? Would you have to go to Old Faithful in Yellowstone?
Yeah, we kind of give up on the iron. When you live out here like this, you're wearing Carhartts and t-shirt. Yeah, you give up ironing clothes real quick.
Well, to be honest with you, I think a lot of people in the city have given up on ironing clothes, so it's not lost down here.
Yeah, something also this backup thing, the communications. Like I said, most people think cell phones. Out here for us, my cell phone is intermittent. We have that if we can use them, but we also have the GMRS radios or UHF, VHF, the ham radios. That's our everybody tries to use cells, but the backup is the GRMSs if you can't get to anybody on the cell phone, and having that multiple ways to communicate with folks. Here again, having a backup for everything. It's one thing. Fuel, like I said, we just went through that thing with the pipeline being shut down. Right. Having your fuel, it's kind of in a way, it's a backup thing. Okay, if your fuel, we do it from a security side, where we're talking with folks, we try to get them to plan for if fuel becomes either cost prohibitive or unavailable for whatever reason, that you have that fuel storage on their property. Yeah, basically you're backing up the local gas station by you having your own fuel supplies on your property for you. Like I said, for us, we rely on our equipment. We got a backhoe and a tractor and one of these little side-by-sides. All that stuff runs on diesel. That stuff for us is crucial for us to run our property. Like I said, living on the side of a mountain, we have nothing but rock. I'm not digging this dirt by hand. I have to have a backhoe to dig anything.
Come on, you're what? In your early 60s? Look like you're in your 50s.
Yeah, I'm 59. I'll be 60 in a couple of months. So it's like, yeah.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you were. I thought you said you were 62. I'm not sure where I got that.
Number. I'm 59. Like I said, in a few months, I'll turn 60.
Hey, that's a good number.
Yeah, and then like I said, it's by also one thing we look at it by doing the living lifestyle that we live. We get out and do things, sometimes the hard old way, that's my gym, and that's how I work out. Instead of getting up doing the hours worth of PT in the morning, okay,
Right.
I go out and work the property and do my chores. That is my gym, and that's my workout.
And so for myself, I would say there's something dreadful about it when it's terribly cold outside or super hot. But at the end of the day, it is fulfilling,
Yeah,
on
it is.
natural state of mind.
Also, that like I said, knowing that we got some neighbors a couple miles down the road. They're in their 70s and they're almost as active as we are, and that's my goal when I hit 70 is to be able to keep up, where they are right now. And to me, I know if I don't, especially with the injuries that I've had through my career, that I got so much metal in me now and so many surgeries that fixing things
If
that
you
I
slow
broke.
down, it's going to be hard to
It
get back
is, and
going. Same
if
for
I
me.
don't stay active and doing things, oh man, I wouldn't get back up.
Yep.
So I
Huh.
have to force myself to get out and do the hard stuff. And like I said, I spent the morning, I've been out weed eating and tending the garden. And, we have crops here on the property that we're, got to get those ready. We got a harvest coming up here soon.
Okay. Well, be sure to save enough for me. I'm the squirrel knocking on the door in the wintertime. Me and everyone else probably. um, no, but seriously, you do have a vast array of knowledge, and I'd love to pick your brain. I'm actually going to share my screen real fast so I can highlight your Facebook and one of the repeaters here that you're working on.
Oh, yeah. That communication, like I said, for us,
Mhm.
communications is huge
Right.
for us and for helping our clients on the business side.
Yeah, I mean, communication is shoot, move, communicate, kill. Is kind of the motto in
Yeah.
the infantry.
Yep.
And when I say kill, you can also exchange that for execute. If you're farming with your neighbor, you need to be able to communicate, hey, are you coming over here? Or hey, grab this before you come over here. If you have it,
Yep.
you need his help for whatever reason, you're going to be able to talk to him as he's at his house, so he knows what tools to grab whenever time is of the essence. So it's little things like that. So I'm going to share your Facebook page here. All right. So can we see this? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a project they're working on June 5th. And also this is the Off-Grid Preppers. This is Mark Strickland's Facebook page for the Homestead security aspect of his company.
Oh, quick side note here. I've requested Facebook to change this name to Off-Grid Preppers, and I haven't heard back from them. Facebook is not very communicative when you ask them stuff and try to do something.
Okay. Well,
So,
I know some
quick
people over
side note.
there. I'll get that fixed for you. We'll get that fixed by the end of the day. I know Mark Zuckerberg. If you say his name 3 times in the mirror, he appears. Kind of like Beetlejuice. All right, so this is really cool. This is a repeater, I believe. Yeah. Solar. Let me zoom in on this. Solar powered, which I think is freaking awesome. The technology behind all this stuff is incredible. I mean, if the Pilgrims had this, we'd be flying around in jetpacks right now.
No kidding.
So this is amazing stuff. So obviously you have the ability to get off the grid power. Now, what's the purpose of a repeater for people who don't know? So this is a radio repeater for like an Army comm device, correct?
Yeah. All right. What this is, you have your radios. Typically, what people call the ham or UHF, people that know radios, they're UHF or VHF, those two spectrums.
Let's break that down for the millennials and the Gen Xers or
Okay,
whoever.
UHF is ultra high frequency. VHF is very high frequency. They're just two frequencies in the electromagnetic spectrum of energies.
Okay.
And nowadays you can buy these little handheld radios, and they're combined. You can one piece of equipment you hold in your hand can transmit and receive either in UHF or VHF. And basically, they're just the wavelengths are slightly different, but they.
So what would be my radio station? What kind of frequency is that?
Oh, let's see. One of them runs on 42 to 140 megahertz, and the other one runs on 3 to 340 megahertz, I think. I'm trying to. I'm not a radio guy. I've always, during my career, I always had radio guys that work for me. So, but I
That's the way to
believe
do it.
that's right. I think it's 40 to 140, and then 300 to 340. That's the spectrums that UHF and VHF run on.
Okay. Now we got a
And
good grasp
all right,
of what these things. They're radio waves in there. that we
yeah,
can see.
but yeah, basically, yeah. So you key the mic and you can talk on it as long as people are on the same frequencies. And what a repeater does is, well, first off, these UHF, VHF radios, you're supposed to get like 20 miles range out of them. But I live in the mountains. If I
Okay.
get 2 miles, I'm lucky because I got these mountains and big trees that
Right.
I just can't get them. My
Oh.
radios won't the frequencies won't, or the radio waves will not go through.
Side note, when there's cloud cover, is it true that the radio waves can go further?
Yeah, sometimes they'll actually bounce off and you can't get longer. But now that's how if you're on nice flat land. Up here in the
Okay.
mountains,
No difference.
yeah, it doesn't really help you. Like I said,
Okay.
what kills me is that, the mountain ranges, the way the mountains jut out and the way they're irregular shaped, it just kills I get about 2 miles range out of my radios.
Okay.
And so what the repeater's going to do is I'll set it up at a high point at the farthest reach of where I can transmit to. And this repeater, what it is, basically it's just another radio. It will receive my radio signal, bump up the power in wattage to a slightly higher wattage, and then retransmit it and send it back out. And so then that increases my range.
Okay.
And so now that basically, if you have a big mountain, you can't get over the mountain, you put your radio repeater up on top of the mountain, you could transmit, your radio signal would go up the mountain to the repeater would take it, boost the power and retransmit it out further. So now that's how basically you're bouncing your radio signal on the other side of your mountain range.
So it's very
basically
similar
just,
to like a cell phone, like you
Yeah,
text
the
message
cell phone
somebody and it goes
towers,
to the tower and the tower
and it
boosts it and
boosts
sends
it,
it out.
sends it out to another tower, and you can same thing concept. You can chain many repeaters together so you can get longer range out of them.
Great Wall of China style.
Almost, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, there's one repeater that the local radio guys have. They have it placed up on one of the higher mountains, and people are saying they're getting hundreds of miles of range. But this is a 50-watt big repeater that has, this thing's massive. But they lease this out to local companies that need radio coverage for their service vehicles.
Oh,
And
right.
so this for them,
That's
this
important.
is a commercial operation, but they do have some of it set aside that the local radio guys can use to talk to each other, and they're getting hundreds of miles of range out of this. If you have a big enough antenna, high enough wattage power, you can go that far.
Yep.
For practical, for homeowners use, for emergencies, for homesteads and whatnot, emergency uses. The price point on the one we're trying to put together, we're trying to keep it down to like somewhere $250, $300.
For the radio?
Yeah, no, for the repeater.
For the repeater, okay.
That's basically a little handheld radio, the repeater device, the batteries and solar panels and all that stuff in there. That's the price point we're trying to hit.
Okay.
We've done a proof of concept. The thing actually works. And so now we're just playing around with the configuration. And I got one of the neighbors we're helping. We're trying to figure out exactly how far with the configuration that we have now, what type of range can we get out of this? Knowing that we're using a little 5-watt radio, handheld radio in this thing. We're using a little literally a $30 radio that I bought off Amazon is the radio in this configuration that we're trying to, what we can do to keep this thing inexpensive, because the concept being how we're seeing it would be used. This is equipment that you'd have sitting on the shelf. Cell phones and whatnot go down and you need to still communicate. You pull the stuff off the shelf, you take it to where you determine it needs to go, set the antenna up, plug the batteries in, set the solar panels up, plug everything in, and now you have your radio comms. You're within an hour.
Call Jesus, right?
Yeah, you're back up and running, and you can talk to your neighbors, and okay, if anybody's in trouble, they can reach out and
try to say a joke there, Mark. You're supposed to laugh.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Jesus.
Hello, Jesus.
Hey, I'm a technical guy. I think when I start talking technical stuff,
I can tell, man. You're just like pop, 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 pop. These kids who are listening. So I have a wide range of audience. I have people from my hometown that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I have kids from TikTok who are 15, 16 years old watching this stuff. So it's kind of like a wide range. It's always interesting to get the feedback. but I think everyone can tell by now that you know what you're talking about. And, you know, I want to highlight what you offer, just from a teaching standpoint, you know, not necessarily, I don't, you know, I'd love for my audience to go check out your website and your Facebook, follow all this very interesting, all these very interesting products and concepts that you're coming up with, because this isn't end of the world scenario stuff. This is just real world applicable safety security measures, homestead security, that are great to have in a worst case scenario.
Yeah. A point on that, how we look at it, like I said, we got a client we're working with down in Atlanta, and we're doing some security stuff. He's building a new house down there. And this time last year, Atlanta, they had riots, you know, and so now he's warning, we're doing stuff to help them should riots come again to their area, that they have certain security stuff in place that his family could be relatively safe and protected from that. And so that's one thing we're looking at, that if a riot breaks out, that's another thing for what we can do is we come in and help people set up their security systems and their security posture, that they're prepared to deal with that. I mean, that's a real legitimate concern in some of the larger cities around the country now.
The suburbs right outside those larger cities.
Yeah. I mean, there are several groups out there that they say, hey, we're coming to the suburbs. And so people are taking that seriously now. And
it's not even, let me pause you out there, Mark. Sure. Sorry to interrupt, but this is also not even a threat just by Antifa or, you know, how you want to categorize the left. This is the idea and the realization that last year there were clashes amongst, you know, people who consider themselves right and left. And I think that all that's retarded anyway. If you consider yourself left or right, you are already telling me that you don't believe half the stuff of what I say. I'm not sure which half yet.
Yeah, that's true.
But
sad. I mean, I really hope we can get back to saying we're Americans. And then if we have a left or right leaning, awesome. We can have that discussion, and then we can have the technical discussion on those. And then after the technical discussion, then we can go have a beer and still enjoy
some darts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like whenever people ask me my political affiliation now, I say I'm American.
Yeah.
When they ask me my race, I say American. And they ask me my religion, I say Christian. And to all the three of those answers, they want more like, what kind of Christian or what church do you go to? And my answer now, since everyone's trying to categorize everything, is be the most general, bland, boring Bobby from King of the Hill possible. You know? There you go. Damn it, Bobby. But you're teaching some amazing things here on Off-Grid Preppers, and I want to give everybody kind of a sneak preview of your teaching style and one of the, or I guess, two of the topics that are covered. And we got those topics from our Google Doc we shared. Yeah. And let's dive into the first one. The first one is the 5 preparedness items you need to solve right meow.
And what's the first thing on that list? Like we've been talking about already, of communications.
Communication breakdown. We'll leave that one for you.
Yeah, that, like I said, that the ability to, and that really is kind of dovetails with the last one that we're going to get into. So actually the top 2, communications and neighbors, kind of dovetail with the very last ones on that list, which I'll get to that one. Like I said, how are you going to be able to talk to people? Because you're not going to be an island. You have to have people. And so having the ability to talk to them and share information. And now the people thing is your neighbors, who lives around you. The way we look at it, if you can't walk to, if people have the big thing people talk about now in the preparedness homesteading thing is this tribe community group thing, that if you can't walk to somebody's house, then they're not in your tribe or your community. So getting to know your neighbors now, that's huge. Like, so I spent 20 years living up in DC up there at that time, knowing my neighbors in the suburb that I lived in a subdivision, was waving at them as I was going to work, and they're out cutting their grass. Yeah, that's not knowing your neighbors. It's getting back to the old school that, hey,
that doesn't count.
Yeah. Now I
think his name is Bill.
Yeah, exactly. Now you have the cookouts, and get to know them. They need help, you go help them. You need help, they come help you. Getting back to that way of doing things, and you can help each other. The next one we had, emergency plannings. That's just having whether you've done just the intellectual thought process, you've gone to the point of writing stuff down of what you're going to do is, okay, if your house catches on fire, or if your neighbor's house catches on fire, or what if somebody
That's
breaks a
good.
leg, breaks an ankle, or if they have some type of medical emergency that you need to do something.
Especially kids. I
Yeah.
don't know how many times I came home from playing around in the pasture with one time I had my eye cut up and gushing blood out my eye, and my mom just looked at me and said, "Get in the car, let's go." I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool." She was calm, I was calm, but it's having that attitude, especially for kids. I would imagine when stuff starts popping off as a parent, I feel like you have to be calm.
Exactly. And also because something as mundane as like, Debbie wasn't here. She'd gone to visit the oldest daughter who still lives up in the DC area. She was up there visiting her because they just had their first child, our second grandchild. And I was here on a Sunday. I just came home from church, and I was working on, they got these little utility cart wagons you use in the garden. They got the split rim, like 4 or 5 bolts that holds the rim together, and a little bit small tires. And I was putting a new tube in this thing, and I was putting it all back together, and I was inflating it, and the rim failed. I was holding it in my hand, and that rim failed catastrophically in my hand. Basically, what I tried to explosively remove the tip of one of my fingers, my
Oh,
index
wow.
finger on my right hand. That when that rim came apart, it literally exploded in my hand, and I looked down, and the tip of my finger was all mangled, blood. And it's like, yeah, this sucks. And so it's like, okay, my
This is bad.
emergency plan things, like, okay, like guys like us, we've had so much medical training. I knew exactly why. Wash it. It's going to hurt. Wash it off with water, stinging, wrap it up, give me some electrical tape, wrap the crap out of it. And so now it's like, okay, for me to get anywhere is a 30-minute drive. So I'm geographically
That's how it was
isolated
growing
to
up for
the
me.
point that it's a 30-minute drive for me to get to anywhere.
With traffic, going your way.
Yeah. Well, for
You
me,
know,
there is no traffic. It's just miles and distance. I mean, I'm just in the
I mean,
middle of
like,
nowhere.
okay, so even like on my farm, or I guess my parents' farm, if there's a
Yeah.
tractor in the road,
Oh,
or
yeah.
someone's has a cow crossing,
Yeah. For
it's
us out here,
serious stuff. Like, what are you
yeah,
gonna do in that scenario?
that's for us. A traffic jam is the farmer coming up out of the field with his tractor and his plow, and he blows a tire on his plow, and he's stuck
Yep.
half in the road, half in the access from the field, and that's a
Or they're
traffic
weaning
jam.
some cattle, and
Yeah.
one of the calves get out, trying to go back
Yeah.
to the mama.
Yeah, so I had to, my emergency plan. I knew what my emergency plan was. I get the bleeding stopped and all that. And same thing, people, like if you got little kids that are choking on something, planning that stuff out now. Hopefully, we encourage people to write this stuff down, but at minimum, do the mental process of thinking, what would I do? Having your supplies pre-positioned that if you need something, you can have that. Um, we try to get people to think about perimeter security. That's what's going on your property. And one of the classes we teach is how you can dual use your cameras and other things. Um, for right now, you have it watching what we call critical assets. But if something weird kind of happens, how you could take those things and turn them around. Instead of having watching in your critical assets, you could turn your cameras around and extend your perimeter, watching what's coming at you from a distance. And and how you would do things at nighttime if you're worried about people, especially like where you are. You're in a pretty much urban area. For
Mhm.
you, doing a perimeter security thing would be linking up with your neighbors, and okay, you guys would do like perimeter watches and perimeter patrols, and neighborhood watching patrols and things like that. So getting things like that established.
Yeah, which I'm actually trying out for the to be the president of
Yeah. Hey,
the old
I'm
neighborhood.
pulling for you on that, man. I
It's
hope
next week. There's gonna be some new rules in this town.
that what
Tell
are you
you
gonna
that.
be? Is your title gonna be El Jefe?
LFA. It might be a Commodore. Commodore Steagall.
There you go. Yeah,
You
the
guys have
last
to listen to me and everything I say.
yeah.
Maybe
Do
be
everything I
the
say.
czar. Yeah, there's a new czar in town.
You'll be a benevolent dictator.
Yeah, you guys thought Karen. You guys thought Karen was bad. Wait till you get a hold of Bobby. That's a dictator. This is very confusing.
Yeah, but when the youngest daughter was in elementary school, that's what she aspired to be. She came home one day and I said, "I want to be a benevolent dictator." It's like, okay, no more dictionary for you.
That's scary. That's like super scary, but awesome at the same time. It's like, I don't know what you're gonna do in your life, but I think you're gonna be okay. I'm not really worried about everyone else, for really honest. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, no, I told some of these things kind of dovetail that communications and neighbor thing. that really goes with what we talk about, information network. Okay, knowing what's going on around you. Here again, your information network is also like when you go to the grocery store, the drugstore, or for us, the feed and farm supply store, talking about what's going on in the other parts of your city or the other parts of your county. What's happening? You need to know that information.
Who's maybe sleeping around with Sue?
Right? Yeah, if
Miss
you
running around Sue, all that gossip. You got to know who that is.
Exactly, that's important stuff.
No,
I won't get into why it's important, but
there's a huge difference, between people that I see taking this local action and actually what's happening in some instances that I see is guys are getting together and drinking and sharing gossip in old football stories, and there's a difference between getting to know your neighbors in that way and actually sitting down and having the adult conversations instead of being like, well, things were crazy, huh? Let's have a beer and pretend like we're doing something about it. You feel secure? Yeah, I'm drunk. Well, let's call it good. See you tomorrow. It's setting all the alcohol aside, the no shit. Okay, it's gonna be a difficult conversation, but let's plan for worst case. If your house is on fire, how do you want me to act? You want me to call, fire where your kids stay, or in your house? One of my neighbors has a brand new baby. It's probably pretty important for me to talk with him about how they're doing their fire plan. If there's something I need to do to help.
And knowing what room.
Like that.
Okay, you get up in the middle of the night, you see their house on fire. Right. And knowing what room here, but here again, to get to that level of intimacy with folks, you got to get out and do the hard things together and to know and trust them. I mean, you're not going to know, they're not going to share that type of information, what room their infant child is in, with somebody that they don't know.
We'll have a drone, so I fixed that.
You got the infrared camera, the IR, so you get the body count of who's inside where they are.
I know a lot more about everyone around me than they know I know, so we're good. No, I do think that the information network is something that's so shaky these days. For me personally, unless I research it myself, or unless it comes from somebody who this is like, I can count on one hand how many people I trust have done their research when they share something with me. But there's so much content and so much information out there that you can overwhelm yourself.
Very easy.
Very easy.
Yeah,
scare the shit out of yourself too.
Interesting on what you just said there about doing your research. People have to really be careful on what information they do share. They need to do their own research to verify, because once you blow your credibility, it's gone. It takes ages to restore credibility.
Done. And that's why a lot of people are not on social media right now. A lot of people aren't on Facebook. A lot of people who have been on the far left, the far right, I'm going to say the whole up their ass side of things.
Right.
That they weren't even able to have a conversation with family members on a social media platform that's public about something that's important to both of you. You're such an immature person that you were able to throw away a family relationship over something that isn't going to affect that relationship.
Right.
And so I think the internet has also done something to us internally and made us realize that we're all inside a bunch of high school brats.
Yeah. It's one thing interacting through a keyboard. That's one way, but people, I think, really want to be able to get that back to that face-on-face, personal interaction with people. I mean, we are social creatures, and we, like I said, for us, we realized we hadn't left the property in a while. We forced ourselves to leave the property, go interact with other people, just so we can maintain that human contact. Even though we are introverts, we still need that human contact on occasions.
I got to have somebody to make fun of. That's just all there's to it, and I need somebody making fun of me. So everyone wins. Our next topic here. Oh, thanks for that. So that was the 5 bits. Let me recap that real fast. So 5 preparedness items that you need right now, as in at the end of this podcast, you should already be thinking about this stuff. Is communication plans, talking with your neighbors, emergency plans for fire, etc. Perimeter security, whatever that means for your certain climate, and then also the information network where you're getting your, not only just like big political news, but your local news, like who's going to fix the road in the
And
there's
what's
a
in your county,
pothole.
your town,
Who's going to fix the
your
potholes on
suburb?
the
Yep.
back road? Like
Yep.
know the county commissioner, know the
Yep.
sheriff, know the sheriff, know the sheriff.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably the most important political public figure.
Yeah, your sheriff is your chief law enforcement officer for your county.
Yeah, and it's damn important to elect a good one.
He answers to. He's elected by the people, and he answers to the people. So yeah.
And just those people.
Yeah, huge.
You know
something quick concept for people, so everybody can have this for perspective. The communications plans we write for folks, ours, it's 16 pages long. So it needs to be a detailed, in-depth plan on how you're going to talk to folks and how you're going to do business on the radios.
Would it be advantageous to share an example of one of those, or would it be better just for people to see that for them only?
Yeah, when we do them, we tailor them to each family or group that we're working with, because everybody has different equipment. I mean,
Okay.
you could have CB radios, you could have GRMSs, or you could have UHF VHFs.
Well, if you have the desire to, if you want to give me an example, you can change the names and change the stuff, and I can include a PDF.
Yeah. I
can
can give you some, on something like that, because each plan is tailored to each person. I can give you a kind of an outline of the things that we talk about and the things that we cover in our communications plans. And it's something for people to think about and solve now.
I have people on TikTok asking me where I'm live streaming this at, and they're one girl said, "I'm going to send this to my husband. This is great stuff."
Is this on TikTok now?
Yes, sir. I'm live streaming on TikTok also.
Oh, awesome. I didn't know that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, here I am making an idiot of myself.
Hey, man, you're the Blue Falcon. Welcome to the show, asshole.
Okay, nice. No, I'm still talented. I'm still very good at making an idiot of myself.
Hey, you know what? I'm the best at it. So really, I promise you, anything that you get, I'm going to overshadow, and not in a great way.
Okay.
That's why a lot of my people that consume my content or follow me or I'm friends with, I consider them friends. I don't consider them followers because they are friends. A lot of them get a kick out of me being having humility, because just back to the the reputation. If you say something that is right, you got to be really careful to say that level of confidence. I have a high level of confidence that this is true, because I've said some shit that was wrong.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. Something we just talked about. It took me a long time. I didn't realize this. This was when the youngest she had just turned 16. And for that year, for Father's Day, they said, okay, I've been wanting to get, because, trying to teach my daughter or my wife something. The last person they could listen to was me. And they said, okay, I want to get them some weapons training. Amber was old enough now. And so they said, okay, for my Father's Day gift that year was, they said, okay, we'll pick a place and we'll go to training. So I picked this place over in West Virginia, and we went. It was a 2-day class. Unfortunately, the owner retired. They're going out of business. It's called Storm Mountain Training Center. Awesome place. He was a Green Beret guy, the guy that runs the place, Rod Ryan. I went over there and I fell in love with this place, because me being prior military, EOD guy. I went over there, and they were everybody there was all, basically 90% of people there were military background. Right. And at that time I'd been working in DC for so long, I had to be guarded about everything I said. I went there and I just immediately relaxed.
Probably like walking into the locker room after a press conference.
It was walking back into the team, back in the military, walking back into the team room. I was just around a bunch of dudes. Like I was telling you last week when we were talking, it's like how it's just being able to sit, and you and I can just sit there and talk because we got common backgrounds. Okay, I don't have to be guarded. We can just be some couple of dudes sitting here talking again.
There's a lot of times that people have miscommunications. Yes, having that is huge, and also the fact that you and I are going to say things that we don't necessarily mean, or the other person may take a different way because of different cultures. Like, this is the first time in human history where we can talk to each other on a global scale. There's going to be misphrases, misquotes, like, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that. Hold on, let me rewind this, because I'm not used to, as a human being, being recorded everything I say." Most of the time, Sally has to tell Sammy what I said about Tim. But now it's like, oh, this is what he said. This is the recording of it. Look at it. Look what how he meant it. It's like, oh,
yeah. But here again, that's really important. I think people really craving that, to be able to get back and they can just talk and be themselves And if they don't just, if somebody inadvertently said something to offend somebody, it's usually not meant to offend. They're just trying to be funny and just people being people. And I'm
Bad
hoping we
jokes.
really get back to that where we can just sit around, have a beer at the end of the day, and just sit around and talk.
And laugh. Like, ain't
Yeah,
that some shit? That
and
was
that's one
pretty
thing
crazy.
I don't know about you, but I still miss that aspect of being in the military. There was no race, no color. We were just a bunch of dudes out. We were all doing the same crappy job. We went through the same stressful, hard training. And once you
We,
got to the units, I mean, skin
welcome to the family.
color, ethnic background, religion, none of that mattered.
Like,
I
hey,
mean, we took care
I
of
need
each
help
other.
on this IED real fast.
Uh-huh.
Don't send Bill. His skin color is different than mine, or he's a different religion. I don't want him
Yeah,
coming down and helping me. No, send somebody else. Oh, it'll take
yeah,
5 hours. Yeah, I'm fine
yeah,
with it. No, send the best trained. Help me out.
exactly.
We had a lesbian couple and a gay guy in our unit, and I said couple. Both of them were techs. One of them was in our unit, and she was one of the most the most educational instructors I've ever had. From a team leader standpoint, she would really she wouldn't talk down to me. She would make fun of me like a human being does in EOD. Like,
Right.
that was fucking stupid, wasn't it? Like, yeah, that was stupid. I don't know why I did that. Like, you're dumb, aren't you? Yes, I'm dumb. I should not have done that. And, okay, so now we're gonna do this and try it this way the next time. And so, so that fun
Yeah.
loving, you're stupid, I love you, but here's how you really do it. Like, okay, thank you. Instead of just making fun of you and leaving you out to dry. That
Right.
mentality is so toxic. And I think that's kind of like what we're doing right now on social media. Like, hey, everyone, look at this idiot. Look how stupid they are. Like, do we really think we're all going to get along doing this shit? Like, at what point are people going to be like UFC match, Facebook Henry versus, Instagram Tommy? It's going down tonight, motherfucker.
Cool.
Let's hit on this last thing before we get off.
All
here.
right.
So let me share the screen. We have what to do when your trip wires start tripping.
Right.
Like some of these hoes be doing, tripping. So walk us through this, Mark. Why'd you put this on here, and what are you looking at?
A lot of people talk about setting. We get that question a lot. People say, "Oh, what are the tripwires?" Tripwires are when events or a series of events happen that they need to start thinking about either leaving an area or start modifying their behavior around their house and how they're going to do things. Typically, most people think about, okay, when these certain events happen, when do I need to go to my bug out location, or when do I need to leave the city, or when, people talk about establishing the tripwires, but what we've seen is nobody talks about what do you do, because they all don't go at one time. They usually go one or two here, then one or two, then one or two. This is about what do you do when you start seeing a couple of your tripwires go. Like one would be, say, if fuel becomes unavailable for whatever reason, or if there's the ATMs get shut down, or if if the local officials start talking about instituting a curfew or martial law, or things that would be concerning to you for you and your family and how you do business. When you have these tripwire and you see these things start happening, okay, it's good to have your tripwire set, but what do you do when you start seeing them? So this is what we're talking about here. So if you see any of your indicators starting to go, that things could be something, social unrest may be coming.
Would we make this list with our neighbors? Talk
Your
through
neighbors
things?
or anybody that's in your group or your community. We use the words community, group, tribe, or MAG. MAG is mutual assistance group, which is I won't get into that just yet, but when people we'll use group, community, all those words as synonyms.
Okay, I'm gonna make another one up just for myself. We'll call them team. So Team Bobby.
Teams. So if you had anybody that's in your team, group, tribe, community, they're within walking distance of you. And so you would establish all the stuff that we're talking about. You would be working with your people to establish all this stuff, and you would all sit down over a dinner or a beer or whatever and develop these things.
And this is important also because I think a lot of us consume so much content online that a lot of these things are false. just to scare the shit out of you to buy something.
Right.
Which is
Yeah.
great.
See, I don't do that. I try to get into the educational side of this, meaning that,
I love that.
there is no way we look at it. There is no perfect solution. I'll tell people that right up front. There is no such thing as a perfect solution. There's trade-offs. I'm going to give you option A, option B, and maybe an option C. And then I'm going to give you the good and bad of option A, the good and bad of B, and the good and bad of C, and then the dollar amounts associated with each one.
So go to you whenever
everything comes down to budget. And
would you say that you're the go-to guy whenever the government is giving us option D?
What was that? I'm the go-to.
When the government is giving us option D, we come to you for options A, B, and C.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I would be the go-to guy for that one. Okay. I was like, oh God, this get back. Yeah. One thing I've learned here, this is hard earned. 30 years of government stuff. Yeah, when the government's telling me something now, it's like I take it with a healthy dose of skepticism, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to do some research and reading into it when I'm getting something coming out of the government guys now. I don't know. Weird things are going on in DC now.
Well, I would just say the fact of how inept they are to me is like how surprising it is. Like, wow, these guys are stupid as.
Yeah. The people in Congress now. It's like, did you catch that interview that I think his name's Hank Johnson, that guy, that congressman out of Georgia? He was on this in a congressional meeting or congressional hearing, and he had the Navy guys in there, and his concern was the island of Guam tipping over.
Oh shit!
I'll pull it up on YouTube. I think it's Hank Johnson out of Georgia. He was one of the congressional districts there in Atlanta, and this dude was serious as a heart attack. He said, "Well, Admiral, I'm concerned about the number of people, and what happens if we get so many people on the island and it just tips over." And the best part was this Admiral looking. It's like, well, Congressman, I'm going to have to research that and get back to you. I'm the only one who was saying, "You're an idiot. The islands don't tip over, you moron."
We're over here with plans on how to retaliate in a nuclear war, and you know what? You might have something here. These islands tipping over might be the biggest thing.
It's like, how do you elect this person that's worried about the island tipping over? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Back to topic. Sorry. Yeah, I love our rants, and welcome to the conversation, assholes. This is how EOD techs talk. All right, we're all over the place. Back to the tripwires are starting to trip, and you have fuel, food, vehicles, and communications.
If things happening that give you tripwires, things happen and make you get concerned with. Okay, if you see that, top your fuel stores off. Start topping off your food. Make sure you have enough food to have at least. We start off, our starting points is 6 months. We tell people, but if you can get a year or two, that's even better. But if some of your food stores are down, make a grocery store run and top off.
So in my head, the most logical thing would be to have a year's worth of food based on climate conditions, a winter, summer, fall.
And then the ability to grow. And so it means you have seeds stockpiled up, and you have the ability to then come springtime, you start planting that summer crop.
And that year's worth of food should also, to me, be extracted from things you've already made.
Yeah.
So you can trust it.
Exactly.
You need to trust trust your equipment, right? Gas mask, trust your equipment. We're gonna make it test it.
Yeah. So like I said, first two things, you top off your food and fuel, and then next thing is on your vehicles. On that goes along with your fuel. You top your vehicle off, and then also you make sure it's in good running condition. The tires are in good shape.
Do you carry spare tires?
Mechanically and things, if you're looking at the fan belts, if you need to do any service or maintenance on it,
do you keep all those parts?
And you keep your vehicle when you try, if you can, you keep spares on the shelf. What we call those, this term, consumable items, things are going to break, you're going to use up.
So we're talking
you have extras on the shelf.
Not fan belts, but fan
belts and things that are going to wear on it. You looking at the brakes, and because your vehicle would also be that if you had to leave, that's going to be typically how you're going to be getting out of the area. And so you want to make sure your vehicle is ready to go.
Okay.
Well, and then also
in that, hopefully get abducted by aliens. Hopefully.
And then you got your comms. You want to then get your radios out, do radio checks, get them on charge. If you don't keep them on charge, and then you're reaching out to your information network through your communications and talking to people. Hey, what do they see going on in their part of your county or the other part of the town that you live in?
You know, also I'd like to hit on this, and this is me assuming what you would say to do based on what I would think is best. For that plan, when the tripwires start tripping, you know, have a 2 week or 3 week or a month standby period to fill things out. You know, if a mob riot happens, you know, and they overtake, you know, a suburb, you know, getting out somewhere, whatever that plan is for a month, seeing how things sustain, if you can go back or not, and then have decisions based on that. It's not like once you leave, you're never coming back. You know, kiss your dog goodbye. You know, might as well bury him in the yard. You know, it's more of a keeping distance, because distance is obviously our best friend when it comes to danger.
It is. Yeah. To give people a background on the stuff that we've written here, these are articles that we're in the process of writing. Actually, on that list, number 2, the personal family personal values. We've already written that article. We're working with a blog site on preparedness, and that article is going to be kind of, it turned out it's going to be a 2-part article. We're getting pretty close. We're supposed to publish the first one in July on this. I'll kick you the link to the blog posting where this is going to be. And that's what this list is. These are 5 articles that we're going to write. Now, I could go into so much detail, and so each one of these things, each one of those 5 topics on this list that I sent you should have so much more. But here again, I had to limit them to things that I could write small articles for information for folks, because
people consume things in small quantities now, right?
Yeah, and we have to make it in bite size. So what reason I'm bringing this up is what you talked about. There's a bug out plan, and a part of basically all of these things, and that's a part of it. Things, if something happens, riots break out, that which is part of the tripwire thing. While people set those, okay, at what point do I have to leave? And I tell people this, that if your plan A, which for us for a long time, our plan A was to bug out, because I lived in a suburb of DC, surrounded by a couple million of my closest friends. And then finally, we realized that, hey, if something goes badly in DC, which it did, this was back during the Baltimore riots. So had a guy up there was killed. I think his name was Freddie Gray, in police custody when he was being transported. Riots happened up in Baltimore, and it took them 5-6 days to get Baltimore back under control. And we realized after that, it's like, our plan A of bugging out was bad, because we literally lived in an area called Southern Maryland, which is a peninsula. To our west was the Potomac River, the Tucson River to our east. To the south was the Chesapeake Bay. We had the 301 bridge going into Virginia. That was our way to get out going south. If that became blocked or taken out, our only other option to leave was to then go up just south of DC across the Woodrow Wilson Bridge into Virginia and through northern Virginia and out. If that was unavailable, then we had to go north of DC, in between DC and Baltimore, loop around DC, then cross the river back into Virginia or West Virginia and get out of the area. We had no good plans to bug out. All our plans were bad and worse. And which is why that's when we said, okay, after the Baltimore riots, we said, okay, it's time to go. And so we put the house up for sale and we left and moved.
Do you think it's okay to be wrong or have a bug out plan that you realize needs to change? You know, I think that's something that some people have in their mind for whatever reason. Like, once you start on a plan, like, that's your plan forever.
Well, these things should be what we call living documents, which means you're always going back and reviewing them and looking at them and refining them. Like I said, for years, my plan A was to bug out. And then I realized when it looked like the riots were going to move into our area, we said, our bugging out is a bad plan.
Yeah, and so you're not going to know in those streets.
But now that some people, that's their only option. They have to live in these urban populated cities. Right. And so that they have plans to leave, which goes back to the tripwire document. When you have to make a decision when you do leave. Tripwire documents are hard to write, but they're even harder to act on, knowing that you may be leaving your house and a lot of your valuables behind. And so actually making the decision, okay, we're leaving, that's a hard decision to make. So
I'm going to tell you a personal story, and they'll have you for another 20 minutes and we'll shut this thing down.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe you watched that Discovery Channel show back in the day in the 90s, early 2000s, where the prepper would come in and assess a
Oh,
family's.
that's that Doomsday Preppers. Yeah, that's what I was talking. Yeah, I know.
Okay, was
Yeah,
that the name of that show? Okay.
yeah. They
So
come in and assess them. They put them in a scenario, and yeah.
okay, so I want to hear your thoughts on my, I guess the bug out plan and how
Okay.
things happen for me. And I guess starting in late February of 2020. Uh, I'm a nerd. I love consuming information, especially worldwide news when it comes to the stock market, and how it's going to affect business, small business owners, because shortages. I've known for several years now in the industry. Um, After catering to entrepreneurs and small business owners for financial services, I realized that worldwide news is important to have some kind of grasp on what's going on because of supply and demand intricacies within the product line. Some people are making, for instance, one of my friends is making parts that go up on to the International Space Station.
Wow.
Went to college with him. Awesome, smart dude, way smarter than me. And his company, is very dependent and reliant on parts from all across the world. So whenever something happens, I think it's important to share that information. That's kind of some of the content that I try to put out for financial, for Bobby.money. That being said, I heard about the Wuhan virus, and I was tracking it. I was on a vacation for the first time in like 10 years, and my girlfriend and I were kind of, reading about it. Like, are we worried? Are we gonna get on the plane? I'm like, screw it. Whatever. It's another swine flu, most likely, but we'll keep an eye on it. And then I saw on TikTok them put up a hospital in like 3 days for Wuhan for the COVID-19. And, they have like the time interval clip of the 3 days
Right.
and like a minute. And I was like, oh shit. It's very concerning for one reason. Why are they practicing putting up hospitals in 3 days?
Yeah, from our background, that's a bad thing.
Yeah. Putting up any kind of hospital settings and that, quick time frame is concerning. And, I thought maybe this is going to be really serious. And then I heard about some Chinese hotels were collapsing. I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. Collapsing with people inside of them. Yeah. I'm going to guess that they're probably locked. And so it started concerning me. And then I dove really deep into the numbers, how we talked about Excel, how much we love numbers. I dove into some formulas for extracting the transmission rate once the Italy numbers started coming in. And I would talk to my conservative friends who were basically talking like Tucker Carlson. I'm not lying to you when I say I felt like I was in the deja vu Twilight Zone. I'm like, hi, what's going on? Like, nothing. You hear about this virus? Like, yeah, I heard about it. It's pretty serious, I think. It's definitely weird. How Italy's, they're getting their asses handed to them right now. Apparently, they're closing down borders and people are, scavenging, trying to get across these borders before all these shutdowns happen. It's pretty scary. And they're like, yeah, but it's because they have socialist hospitals. Oh shit, Tucker, why didn't you? If they didn't have them damn socialist hospitals, the virus would have been like, you guys don't take Medicare? I'm out. What the fuck are you guys talking about? A couple more days go by. Italy's just in a fucking free fall. It's on the news here and there. And I literally have like 10 or 15 people, buddies of mine known me for decades, knowing how big of a nerd I am. And knowing that I don't bullshit about stuff. If there's any kind of hype going on, I'm like, whatever. But whenever I'm freaking out, when the bomb squad guy is freaking out.
Yeah, it's time for everybody to run.
If you ain't running, you might want to catch up. Shit is going down. And then I had to stop talking to my conservative friends. I started getting labeled from my conservative friends and family as a Trump hater. And I was the first person to tell everyone he was going to win. And I was like, you guys are like not even hearing what I'm saying right now. This is very concerning. How many people are dead in Italy now? Okay, great, awesome, exponential rate. Every 3 days it's doubling. So I went on live Facebook when Washington got infected, and I think it was March 8th or 9th, and I predicted in 10 days what the actual how many infected people there would be in 10 days forecast based on all my numbers that I've crunched from Europe and similar areas, because you do have to do the poverty line is really important when it comes to COVID. Anyway, I was within 2%. I guess. I think it was like 47 people were currently infected and ended up being like 650 or whatever the margin for error is 2%. And then all the people on the left in my friend group was like, "Oh my gosh, Bob, you're the smartest person ever." And I'm like, "Thank you. This virus is serious." And they're like, "It is. Did you see what Donald Trump was wearing today? What an asshole. Can you believe he wore that?" And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" They're like, "Well, he's definitely racist, right? He said the Chinese virus because it came from China."
Kind of ignore that whole thing. Every virus we've ever had has been named after where it came from.
And so I'm like on the Twilight Zone with these motherfuckers. And then I get on the phone with my conservative friends and they're like, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's nothing. People in Italy are dying because they're socialist." I'm like, "Oh, fuck." And so my tripwires were a ratchet. They're ping, 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 just all across it. And March, I think 16th or 17th, the final straw was broken whenever California and New York were going into lockdown. And I had friends all across the U.S. and in the left-leaning states that were going to start closing the borders. And then I was like, "Wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Why are we closing the borders?" Unless they're just trying to lock us in for something else, because having a population locked up with a virus from China, you could steamroll an entire army down I-40 corridor, and if everybody's home, no one would know a difference.
Yep.
And that thought went through my head. And I also, at that time, Russia was the only other country without any reported cases. And one night I was like, "Well, that's that." Packed up all my shit into my Jeep.
It got stolen.
That was later taken by two black guys and a white guy. Teamwork. I appreciate the looking past racism to steal my shit. All for the cause. And I bugged out to Idaho. And there was a snowstorm. And it was really interesting seeing my bug out plan play out because the roads were closed due to the snowstorm. But I was convinced the roads were closed because I couldn't get a hold of anybody in the middle of nowhere. I think it was Washington at that point, or not Washington, but Montana. No cell phone service. And now it's having to use back roads on an old map going through country dirt roads and
awesome.
Avoiding police road barriers. I'm like, I'm getting to Idaho. And in my mind, I'm like, these people are blocking this off because they don't want anybody, crossing state borders. But in reality, it was because of the snowstorm. But I made it almost to Idaho. And then a friend of mine called and said, "Come down to Denver. You're freaking out." And I said, "I am freaking out. You should too. You should totally be freaking out. Like right now is a good time to get away just for a couple of weeks, see how this thing plays out." And so I go down there and talk to him and his girlfriend. They laughed at me, said I was crazy. No way we'd ever be locked up for a year. Yada, yada, yada. And now we have conversations. And I think I'm able to carry more weight now in my conversations with them. So that was my bug out plan, was just to get away for 2 weeks, get out of town. Like the tripwires had been tripped, in my opinion.
Right. The only thing I see you were missing, I'm going to nitpick on this a little bit.
Please.
Is that you left out the part how you were in there doing all this, only maneuvering at night under nods.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. Driving with nods at night is highly illegal.
I say that because I've actually had some folks who say, "Hey, they approached me. They want to do some training on nods and how they were doing things. I've actually had people come up and want that training. So.
I mean, I guess it's not the worst training to have in the world, but
well, which I do tell people that is definitely a skill that you have to train to do. You don't just do it for the
you're
first
gonna
time.
wreck. There's just the focus pattern on those night vision goggles when you go to look down at your
yeah. I tell them, okay, if we're doing it, first off, you put them on and practice walking around your property at night. Let's practice walking first.
Right. Before you get in a vehicle and endanger everyone's
before you
lives.
start getting in a vehicle. And run on odds at night, out there, dude.
While you're at it, why don't you get an airplane? Try it out. Next time I have you on, Mark, I want to highlight what I think drones could bring to the Homestead security.
Yeah, I've thought
portfolio.
about that's one thing I want to do because of where we are. I tell people this, that spoiler alert for folks. If you're on your home or your property, and you're doing things, and you look up at the end of your driveway and you see 3 vehicles, and each vehicles have 6 dudes in it, and they're wearing kit, carrying carbines, you have lost that engagement.
Today's not your day.
If they make it to your mailbox, you lose. If that's the first time you see them, you want to know about something like that. If you're in that type of environment, you want to know about this as far out as possible. And drones, to me, I think you're spot on that.
Drones are so freaking awesome.
Yep. Yeah, that's that information network communicating stuff. Like I said, there's so many levels and intricacies to doing all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, it would take us a year to go into depth. Which is, we did an event, and we have one class that we teach. I call it Modern Homestead Security Planning. 3 hours. It's a 3-hour class, and people sign up, and I was like, I do these classes over 3 years, like 40 people in each class.
And they're sitting there,
and they're sitting there 3 hours, and I'm sitting there, and for me, and I tell people, okay, this is going to come hard and it's fast. I have a minute and a half per slide. I got like 90 slides I got to cover over information. I said, all I'm doing is giving you concepts, and now you got to go back, and that's the level of complexity of the plans and stuff that we write.
So do you try to hit on a bunch of different things, and then whatever sticks to the person, kind of develop that, and then go on to the next thing?
Yeah.
Fire hose.
Yeah, that 3-hour class, our security plans, they have 11 sections, and I can't do a deep dive, but I do a little more than a shallow dive on all 11 sections in that 3-hour class.
Let's look at this real fast, Mark. So this is your website, buildingsecurity.associates.com.
Yep.
We wrote the book on building security.
Yeah, literally I did.
I think you did.
Yeah, I did. Actually, literally, I got put on a working when I was back, my time when I was a civil servant in D.C. I was working at the federal courts. I worked for the federal judiciary. I did security at courthouses and judges' residences. And my boss put me on a working group. Our tasking was to update the security standards for all federal facilities. I did everything in my power to get kicked off. I insulted people. I was an asshole.
You mean being yourself, Mark?
I was obnoxious. I said, I don't want to do this. For 6 months, I was an obnoxious ass to everybody. I could not get kicked. And finally, my boss said, who works for me now, he helps me do this. We both are retired now. He helps me. Right. And he said, he pulled me and said, I don't care what you are going to do this. You're going to be on this working group. You're going to do that. You will do this.
They needed you.
Okay. 2 years later, we finally we rewrote the physical security standards. So yeah, I literally wrote the book on the security standards that are used in federal facilities, and I've taken what I did in that 2 years of stuff, and I'm now applying that to homesteads, families, farms, retreats, and on how you do security stuff for that. And so that's where that came. I literally did write the book.
Literally. And that's also goes to show, if you actually know what you're talking about, you can be yourself, because no one can get rid of you because you're that good at what you do. That's kind of my philosophy,
Yeah, unfortunately.
Love me or hate me, I know what I'm doing. So you got to work with me.
And this kind of followed me for the rest of my federal career. I ended up my time there in the government at General Services Administration. I was doing the security at their headquarters. We were 2 blocks west of the White House. And at this time, I was there doing that job. And then the FBI came up and said, hey, we're going to build a new headquarters building. And the people that were supposed to help under NGSA to help them do the security for their building, nobody had the experience of it, because when I was at the courts, part of my job was to do the design work for building new court. We're building a lot of new courthouses. I was the only person there that had any experience at all in building a new building.
Wasn't that also after the McVeigh bombing? That
era? The first security standard that got
makes sense now.
Was because of the McVeigh bombing. A quick story on that was, once the bombing happened, Clinton was in office at the time. He went and said, okay, what are the security standards for our federal buildings? There wasn't any.
Nope.
And so they formed a working group, and they told the working group, you have 90 days to come up with recommendations. And they just threw like 60, 70 people at it, and they did a bunch of research. And the research, they came up and said, okay, here's basically the outline of what we should do. And that outline became the security plan. And then when I got put on that working group, it was like 17 years later, they said, hey, this document hadn't been updated in 17 years. It needs to be updated.
There's been some new technology.
And so, so I got on the working group, and there were 6 of us. And we spent 2 years, and we locked ourselves in a conference room every other Friday, all day for 8 hours. And what we did, we would debate the reading and research and writing that we spent the last 2 weeks doing. Everybody left the meeting with a homework assignment of something to write, research, or develop. And we would spend the next meeting debating, and talking about the work that we had spent the last 2 weeks doing. To give you an idea, we spent one entire day, 8 hours arguing, and it was an argument over how long the battery backup were supposed to last for your security systems in a building.
To be fair, you guys are arguing out of passion and love for each other.
Yeah, and it was. I say argument. I mean, I still stay in contact with these folks today. I mean, it was all
healthy.
It was a technical debate, but it came into a heated arguments. 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours, 2 days. And we went on for 8 hours that day and argued about how, I think we landed on like an 8 hours, how long the batteries are supposed to last.
Well, that's how long you guys talked for. So they're like, we're all done. All right.
But that's the type of stuff. I mean, we did that. We worked at this for 2 years like this. And we finally published the standards, and they were approved by all federal agents. It was a unanimous approval when they saw the work that we did.
8 hours actually matches the Nashville bombing time for the system to be backed up for critical services for phone lines.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
That matches that.
Yeah. So unfortunately, like I said, I'm one of these technical geek guys that I get into this technical thing, and I like the I like the technical stuff. I always have. I've always been. When I was in college, I'm such a technical geek that when I was doing my chemistry, I'd go back and rerun the experiments for fun.
Nerd. Nerd alert.
I am a geek. I'm a nerd. I mean, who breaks back into the chemistry lab to rerun the experiments? And there's like 5 of us. We would literally do that. We'd break back into the lab so we could rerun the experiments.
I had a guilty obsession with math problems. And so I had a math app on my phone. iPhones first came out, and I would just sit there and solve math problems all day.
Oh yeah. You know what Maple is then?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love Maple. I was in engineering school at University of Maryland, and I thought that was the greatest thing when Maple came out. I was like, oh wow, I can solve these integrals real easy. But of course, the teachers would make me do it.
Yeah, you have to do it by hand, right? You got to show your work.
Yeah, you have to show the process that you can actually, do the work, do the summations.
You want me to show you how to kill this cow and butcher it too, or do you want the hamburger? Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I'm hungry. I just want to eat.
I could literally talk to you all day, Mark. This is amazing. Now I got one other thing. Now I have to ask you about since you brought up the security for judges. This blew my shorts off here. The assassination attempt on federal judge Ether Salas last year. Salas, 51, and her husband Mark Anderl had been celebrating the 20th birthday of their son Daniel, who was killed on July 19th of last year by a gunman posing as a delivery driver.
Right.
The man came to the front door of their New Jersey home, rang the doorbell, and then shot Daniel to death. He also shot Silas's husband 3 times. And I guess she was in the bathroom or somewhere else in the house at the time. What the hell is going on with that? Like, what do you read out of that?
I left government in April of 2016. So I give you that, just knowing that I don't know what's going on that, but that whole story stunk to high heaven. None of it made sense. It turns out there would be he was a lawyer, the guy that shot him, that had an issue with, none of it. And this guy had no violent history. None of that, nothing in that story made sense. I don't know what the heck happened on that. Why nobody just flips a switch and does what he did to that level. There's usually a walk up. They get to that level of violence incrementally.
He also killed himself.
Yeah, and then he committed suicide. So that whole story stunk to high heaven. I don't know what's up on that.
And so it says Judge Salas said the man believed to have been Roy Den Hollander, who later killed himself, was carrying a FedEx package, an apparent ruse to coax the family to open the door.
Right. Let me give you an example why I say the whole thing stunk. When I was in the federal courts, that we had an attempted assassination of a judge in Chicago, Judge Lefkow. What happened there was a guy, he was in business. His business got into financial trouble. He went to bankruptcy court, and he got wiped out financially. It wiped him out, destroyed him personally, financially, destroyed his family. Everything in his life was destroyed because of this bankruptcy. He had nothing. He was living in his van.
Oh my gosh.
He went to an appeals. Judge Lefkow was an appeals. She was an appellate judge. His case went to her, and he lost his appeal. And so he blamed her. He went after her. So what he did, he broke into her house. He surveilled her. Her morning routine was she would go into the basement and do laundry in the morning. He broke into the house, went to the basement. He sat in the basement and waited for her. That morning he was there. She didn't go. She left for work. Her mother was living with her at the time, and her husband. And so her mother went down in the basement. He killed the mother. The husband went down and looked for the mother. He killed the husband. And then he realized that the judge had already left. So he left the house. She came home and found this. And so the police finally tracked the guy down. He commits suicide instead of being taken by law enforcement. So here again, for him to do what he did, first off, his business went under. He went to bankruptcy, lost everything, bankruptcy, lost his family. And then he went to appeals court. She denied his appeal. So he just didn't just pick these people at random and go do this. There was a series of events that led up to it. So this thing right here was just a random thing, just all of a sudden a flip of the switch. No, doesn't make sense. But here again, I hadn't been in government since 2016, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. Hours after the shooting in New Jersey, the police found Mr. Den Hollander's body off a road in upstate New York with a single gunshot to the head.
Yeah. Yeah, when that thing, Debbie and I talked about the wife. She was government too, so we talked about this. It's like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. I don't know.
See, this is where it gets really insane. I mean, sorry, I got to share this with you. This is just too good. Okay. Like, you can't make this shit up. This is by the New York Times, of course. Mr. Den Hollander was a self-described anti-feminist. I don't know how you self-describe that. I've never heard that term. With a record of saying misogynistic and hateful writings. He represented the most extreme element of the men's rights movements, whose online discussions in recent years have become increasingly menacing toward women. He was apparently angry at the judge for not moving quickly enough on a lawsuit he had brought challenging the constitutionality of the male-only draft. Judge Salas said that she understood the judge's decisions would be scrutinized. So that's what he was mad about? Is only having...
Yeah, see, it turns out he was what reading I did on, he was a well-respected lawyer in his area. And for him to just flip all of a sudden, go like that usually, like I said, that usually there's a lead up to that level of violence. Here, nothing saying that no lead up to it. So I don't know. It doesn't make, but here again, people, people do weird things. You put people under stress, you stress them hard enough. Yeah, I'll do that in training when we're training folks. I'll wait till somebody makes a mistake and then really get on them hard and just watch them crumble, because most people aren't used to dealing with stress. And I tell people this: how do you can appreciate this? How do you learn to deal with stressful situations? By being in stressful situations. You know, that's what they did to us in the EOD school. They put us under extreme stressful, time constrained testing and scenarios that we had to know our stuff and be able to perform. And you learn by being in those situations. And so you stress somebody
what you're
hard
made
enough.
of, right?
Yeah, you stress somebody hard enough, and you can watch them crumble. And you put them in really bad situations and stress them hard. People start reacting in bad ways. And then that's one thing we talk about on our security planning, that I tell people that this is a spoiler alert. You get a group of people together under a stressful situation, you're going to have problems. You have problems now in the best of times. You put them under high stress. Yeah, you're going to have. And so, and that's a part that needs to be a part of people's plan, is how you're going to deal when somebody's having a really bad day. How are you going to deal with that?
Man, I'm so sorry, Mark. I'm like obsessed with the story now, and it's really bugging me.
I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't.
Well, I need some damn answers here, Mark, because I'm looking at this like, did somebody just make this up? I feel like I'm reading like a.
Yeah, it's just like out of the Twilight Zone.
It's really straight out of the Twilight Zone. Like this guy was challenging a male-only draft. First off, what dude is like challenges a male-only draft?
Yeah.
And then he gets
none of that stuff, anything in that story made sense. Not to me, it didn't.
Yeah. And in situations like that, I'm like, okay, let's see what they do with this, political story, after the fact. And now they're obviously pushing for, which I think is very, very interesting, judges and other, I guess, officials to have their personal information, like their phone number, their address, like anything that I can find Nancy Pelosi's address right now if I wanted to.
Right.
But to have all that removed from the internet. And to me, that's not, I don't want to say it's not fair, but it's not fair.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what the answer would be on that, but I know, like for the case I'm familiar with, that Judge Lefkoe, the response from that was we started putting in security systems in judges' residences because of what happened. That was the response to that one. Now, what's the response to this one? Yes, you're right. That's seems to be reasonable, but it's unfair because they are civil servants. They're paid by the people's taxes, pay these people, but there's got to be some way that they should get some level of protection to help them. I just, here again, I don't know.
And I'm going to say training.
Yeah, training is usually the least expensive thing they can do. It's really one of the most effective. And for whatever reason, I've never understood this in government. When the budgets got tight, training was the first thing to get cut.
Oh, it's the least important.
Yeah, the decision makers would say, "Oh yeah," well the budget people, "Oh yeah, we'll cut training." To them, it's like that was something quick and easy to help on the budget. But that was one of the largest bang for the buck things that you could always do, but it always got cut. So I don't know.
All right. Well,
one of the reasons I'm not in government anymore and I don't miss it.
Yeah, well, I plan on being in the government one day. I plan on running and replacing Marshall Blackburn. I'll let you know how it turns out.
All right.
I think it's going to be an uphill battle. We'll see. All right. Well, Mark, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for visiting the podcast. I did not intend for this to run so long, but it's been very gracious of you to stick with us and let us pick your brain. You have so many amazing stories, insights. I can't thank you enough. Let me go back to your Facebook page real quick, or your website, and share this.
Okay, sure.
People can go in here to his website at buildingsecurityassociates.com, and you'll see here there's different things you can book on his online training and appointment scheduler. And $65, $165, $150.
Yeah, we're in the process of retooling that because we've added new service. We're doing 3D modeling of like your mechanical space, where you put in your water, your electric, hot water, heating and air conditioning. We're going in and modeling those spaces for folks now.
Well, that's great. I mean, $65, that's a dinner out for a family.
Yeah.
Maybe don't spend that money on dinner out. Maybe, cook dinner that night and book an appointment and see, if this piques your interest, having those concerns, I guess, answered and at least addressed will better prepare you of what you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the best place to start.
All right. I appreciate it, Bobby. Thanks for this. It's been fun. Like, that's always great to sit and talk with you. We could do this for hours.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for your time, Mark. Take care,
Okay.
everybody. Thanks for watching the podcast. Be sure to like, comment, share, and